With Yambio. I am originally from the Republic of South Sudan. I am a community advocate, a human rights defender, and co-founder of Refugees in Libya. I'm also a lead investigator on state-to-state human trafficking from the Horn of Africa, namely Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Sudan, all the way to Libya, and then the central Mediterranean. Refugees in Libya was founded in 2021 following a raid in one of the neighborhood in Tripoli that was conducted by Libyan forces in partnership with the armed groups affiliated with the Ministry of Interior. This attack, although it was already something I was accustomed to, was different in volume because we were living in a neighborhood that was designed to contain us. When I mean us, I mean the migrants, the refugees, people who are categorized to not have rights, to not be protected, to not be seen as human beings. This was a wake-up call that we ourselves as refugees felt that it was necessary to put a stop to that, at least with our voice, which in that very moment was the only privilege that we owned. We went in the streets in front of the UNHCR and we had to make our voice heard with a permanent presidium that lasted for more than 100 days. In those days, we saw death. We negotiated with each breath that we were taking with the intention to make known the circumstances that we were living and with the intention to make a bridge over the highly politicized space, which is the Mediterranean Sea. Because oftentimes, also from my experience, I made innumerable attempts to cross the Mediterranean, only to be captured and brought back to Libya. Refugees in Libya today does a lot of work that is deemed, what will I say, by politicians in Europe and in Libya and in Tunisia. Our work is seen as a threat. Why is it seen as a threat? Because as refugees, migrants, we are told that we don't have political rights. We don't have political space. And we don't belong where a state conduct violence on us, we shouldn't speak. This is why when we use this strategic litigation today to bring politicians to their own courts, using their own laws, and to try to bring great awareness to the general public, we are seen as a threat. So much of our work has, in the beginning, had to be and continue to be a political work that try to hold accountable the people who are responsible for the crimes that we had to suffer, and to also call on the common citizens of Europe and also on the other side of the Mediterranean, namely in Tunisia and Libya, in Niger, in Algeria, to recognize that something terribly is happening in the consciousness of humanity. This is what Refugees in Libya does.
You know about the memorandum Italia-Libya and about the last law that passed. If you have something to say about this.
Well, in regard to the MOU signed between Libya and the mafia criminal networks in Italy since 2017, known as MOU, we know that it's a criminal agreement which is intended to kill without touch, which is intended to outsource the responsibility that Italy and Europe in general has towards the people who are fleeing violence and arrive in Libya. Now there is a new law, which is speaking of the naval blockade. Everything is being politicized on my skin. When I say my skin, it doesn't mean that I have to necessarily be present in Libya or in Tunisia. It means that I belong to that race. I belong to that category. I have shared the very experience that these people will ultimately face and experience. So what we are seeing here is an institutional violence that the Italian government is doing, that Europe is conducting on the races of racism and exploitation. Now they're using different terms to say it's migration management. No, you don't manage people when they want to move with the intention to survive. You don't manage people who are doing everything to escape by the teeth of their skin from death of different circumstances. You don't manage people who have dreams, who have ambitions, who should have self-determination, whether as individuals or as a collective of people. This is what we are questioning today. We are also looking at the colonial infrastructure. This is still continuing, because when Italy and Europe is the one engaging and outsourcing and making all these agreements, presenting it to the African governments, which in the primary phase of our life are also the sources of our suffering, chasing us from our countries of origin. This means that there is still the colonial continuation. Today we hear neocolonialism. No, there is still that process going. We haven't been able to heal from that trauma of 400 years of slavery. The generation that we see today, how many generations has it been? 50 generation, 100 generation? Where is the heal process that we have undergone? Where is the reparation? Because reparation cannot be without acknowledgement. And if there be any acknowledgement to what has happened through colonialism, then this agreement wouldn't be present as we speak today. The indifferences that is being preached in political spaces to manipulate the Italian and the European citizen will not exist in the place. But also, the question to the European and Italian citizen will be, if they were really wanting to decolonize the system and the relationship between the Western society and the African people, why are they not questioning the very democracies that they live in? Why are they making this circle around them and say, no, these people, if they come here, we feel invaded. When they come here, we feel our jobs are taken. When they come here, we feel that there is going to be a lot of rape crimes, without interrogating meticulously the system that is producing the suffering in the first place. This is what I will have to say.
How was the training?
I cannot say how beautiful it is, but I can only say how necessary and relevant and timely it is. Whether we, as a people who had to cross that Mediterranean to arrive here, or as European citizens who feel that they are trapped, who feel that they are incapable, who feel that they cannot make change to the situation that is happening around the world, with particular focus to what is happening to the Palestinian people. Because what is happening here is that as an African people, I am told, not by confrontation, by the social norms in my African society, that the Arab person, be them Palestinian, be them the Egyptians, be them even in Sudan, that they are by default my enemy. This is why even Sudan today is a two-divided country. But by looking at this, we are trying to acknowledge and recognize that the violence that is being committed on the Palestinian people in regard to what is happening in Sudan, in Congo, and what we experienced and I experienced on my skin in Libya cannot be differentiated. It is the same capitalist imperial control system that is just circling around with the intention to make us feel numb to the suffering of other people, with the intention to make us not recognize that it is the same struggle, to say no, if it is too far away, happening in Iran, happening in Afghanistan, we feel incapable even of recognizing it. This is why I am here, to engage in the training, to experience something that can give me the ground to develop different perspectives. Because until now, I have been living with one-way perspective, which means the African people, without having the possibility to interlink the struggle around the world of the people who are called the minority. There is nothing like minority. No. I don't think any individual, away from manipulation, will agree that this person, be them a child, be them a woman, should have to die without having the possibility to be rescued, without having the possibility to be given food when they are starving. This is why we're here, to make the link, to make it unique. Because even during my journey in Libya, I met with Palestinian people. What were they there for? There, the difference, there was no difference. There was no hierarchy. We were human beings wanting to coexist in a peaceful circumstance where we could be able to dream apart from the normal dream of our everyday life, which has been limited to dream about bread. But we dreamt in this time to become doctors, to become entrepreneurs, which oftentimes is being limited to us by this power that we are talking about. This power should be made visible that it is a criminal entity that is an enemy of humanity. This structure that we are speaking about, the imperial structure, the fascist structure that is now condensing our world into a society that we cannot breathe, that we don't see the suffering of one another.